I can finally talk about some custom RTX 4070 graphics cards, and today I'm going to begin with this Gaming X Trio from MSI. So in my last video, I already talked about how the 4070 chip performs and how it compares to other GPUs from NVIDIA as well as AMD. So in this video, I'm mostly going to focus on this particular model, all the features it offers, how it performs when it comes to thermals, noise, and power consumption, and most importantly, how it compares to a few other models I managed to test so far. So let's go. Compared to the compact Founders Edition from NVIDIA, this Gaming X Trio is definitely a little bit bigger. It is 2.5 slots thick and it is 34 centimeters long, so if you decide to get one of these, it would definitely be wise to check the specs of your case to make sure it will fit. It is also very well built with a proper metal backplate and a decent plastic shroud, just like the previous Gaming X Trio models. And even though it doesn't feel as dense as the FE, it is actually 200 grams heavier. Design-wise, it very much so resembles other Gaming X Trio models that came out in recent years. It has the same and very safe gray and black color scheme with a few white details, which makes it very easy to mix and match with most motherboards out there. As usual, there is a bit of RGB on the front of the card as well as on the shroud, but unfortunately, that side will only be visible if you mount it vertically. So overall, I think it looks and feels pretty good, even if it doesn't have a super original or inspired design. Other than the RGB, there is not much else in terms of features. You don't get a dual BIOS, but you do get a fan stop feature. And since this 4070 is a mid-range card with a focus on value, not wasting money on extras that most people won't use is just a better choice in my opinion. And even though it seems nice that they included the typical Gaming X Trio GPU holder, this type of a holder doesn't really work, and in my opinion, it is just a waste of money. So either include a proper working one, like the one that comes with the Supreme cards, for example, or just skip it completely and make the card a bit cheaper instead. To power it up, you need the 16-pin 12-volt high-power cable, and as always, it comes with an adapter so you can connect it to your power supply. I still think it is best to just get a native cable instead because it is longer and much easier to cable manage. Now, many PSU brands are sending out these cables for free, but if you're buying a new power supply, do check if it already comes with the cable because many recent models do. When it comes to connections, you get 3 display ports and 1 HDMI 2.1 connection on the back of the card. But before we get into the performance of this particular MSI card, let's do a quick recap of the 4070 chip itself. So the RTX 4070 is about 23 to 25% faster than the 3070, depending on the resolution, which puts it roughly in line with an RTX 3080, especially on 1080p and 1440p resolutions. And I would say 1440p gaming is pretty much the target of this chip, and if we look at the performance in 29 different games from my review that went live yesterday, it hits 70 FPS or more in every single title without upscaling, or 100 FPS or more if you enable DLSS. Or in case of the Microsoft Flight Simulator, if you enable DLSS and frame generation, because this game is very CPU bound. Technically, if you enable DLSS, the 4070 does okay at 4K resolution as well, hitting about 60 FPS or more in all of the 29 titles in the list. But if you're serious about 4K gaming, I would definitely consider getting a stronger card like an RTX 4080 or above. For 1440p gaming, a 4070 Ti is about 22% faster than the 4070 non-Ti, and a 7900 XT from AMD is about 33% faster. So it is really important for these third-party custom RTX 4070 cards that their prices don't get too much above that $600 MSRP of the Founders Edition. The 4070 is also extremely efficient. While gaming, it was pulling around 196 watts, which is a lot less than the 7900 XT, 4070 Ti, and even the RTX 3080. And depending on how many hours per day you spend gaming and what you pay for electricity in your region, that difference can be quite big, and it should definitely be considered when making your choice. So keep this in mind. But let's see how this Gaming X Trio performs. So in terms of clock speeds, the Gaming X Trio runs a little bit faster than the Founders Edition and the Palette Jetstream model. 2835 MHz on average puts it about 2% ahead of the Founders Edition. Memory clocks, just like on other 4000 series cards, are exactly the same on most variants of the same chip. So there is no memory overclocking out of the factory, though you can overclock it yourself if you want to. Higher boost speeds mean that you get slightly higher frame rates, but the differences in games are extremely small. At best, this higher clocked MSI is a couple of frames ahead, which is not something you will ever notice when playing a game. So spending more money on a factory overclocked card will not grant you more FPS. Now, to get these higher clocks, MSI does push for a little bit more power. 280 watts on average compared to the 196 watts on the Founders Edition and 195 watts on the Palette card. Again, this is not a huge difference and you're not really going to notice it in your power bill at the end of the year, but I don't think that 6% more power for maybe 1 to 2% more performance is worth tuning for. If you're deciding what power supply to get, it will totally depend on your CPU choice. So you can easily run this card with a super efficient 7800 X3D with a good quality 450 watt power supply. But on the other hand, if you go for an i9 3900K, for example, that can pull 300 watts or more, you will need a 750 or 850 watt power supply. With a mid-range CPU, I would say a good quality 650 watt power supply is a very good target to aim for. And if we look at the noise performance, this is where the Gaming X Trio really starts to shine. MSI typically tunes their fan curve more towards silence, and in this case, the fans were usually sitting in the 800 to 900 RPM range while the card was under load. So this card is extremely quiet and noticeably quieter than the Founders Edition, as well as the Jetstream from Palette. And keep in mind, both of these cards are really quiet to begin with. It is just that this MSI is even quieter. And if we look at the temps, there's no reason to make the fans run any louder. Compared to the Founders Edition, the chip runs a little bit cooler and memory temperatures are significantly better. The Palette Jetstream does push temps even lower, but when you're already down to 60 degrees on the cores, it doesn't really add a lot of value to push them lower than that. So overall, the Gaming X Trio performs about as well as you would expect from an overkill, oversized cooler on a 200 watt card. Now, I do like that MSI is keeping the noise down to an absolute minimum while still keeping the temperatures in check, and I do know that a lot of you will appreciate that. But other cards with overkill coolers are also launching today, so in the end, it will come down to subjective elements like design, for example, and most of all, the price of this card. Unfortunately, MSI didn't give me any information when it comes to pricing, nor any other brand for that matter, but even if they did, my conclusion would still be the same. So the 4070 is a good mid-range GPU with an MSRP that has very little competition at the moment. And while it is okay to spend a bit over the MSRP for these very quiet custom cards, it is also very important that the price doesn't get too close to the stronger chips like the 4070 Ti or the 7900 XT, for example. In that case, I would just say go for an entry-level 4070 Ti and get more performance instead. Or you can try and grab a Founders Edition that is a bit more audible and a bit warmer, but still a completely fine card. So I would say it is completely up to MSI to make sure that the price is right and all these things don't happen. That's all I have for today, but before I go, let's check out the sponsor of this video. This video is brought to you by Seasonic and their brand new Vertex power supplies. These fully modular power supplies are extremely efficient and very quiet due to their fan design and their hybrid fan mode that stops the fans completely under 40% load. They come with a variety of connections for any kind of systems you have in mind, including the new 12-volt high-power cable for the latest RTX graphics cards, and as a little bonus, you get a cozy 10-year-long warranty. Check them out using the links in the description below. Thank you all for watching and staying to the end. I will be posting more RTX 4070 videos, so if you want to make sure you don't miss them, do consider clicking that subscribe button. Bye guys, and see you in the next one!